name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here then welcome to my channel, and in today's video we are going to be wrapping up my 2024 reading year by going over my 2024 reading stats and by naming every single book that I read in 2024 and giving their ratings if I rated them. So with that, all of these stats are going to be from Storygraph, and same with like the charts and things that will be up on the screen. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. And let's go ahead and start by talking about my reading goal, and my reading goal actually did change throughout the year because I ended up reading more manga than I thought I would at the beginning of the year. And I eventually ended my reading goal at 151 books, and I met that in early December and finished the year with having read 153 books, which is a lot, but again, a lot of that is manga, which doesn't take me as long to read as some other things. So it's a lot, but I do see how I got there at the same time. The first book that I finished in 2024 was Blood Like Fate by Lizelle Sambury, and the final book was Desecrated Poppies by Yafa. 116 of these books were part of a series, and I had one reread. The average length of the books that I read was 226 pages, and it took me around 5 days to finish each book, and the least amount of time that I spent with a book was Our Dining Table by Mita Ori, which was 1 day. And the longest was Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 12, which I read over the course of 199 days. I took a break, I guess. I don't know what happened there. Honestly, it did not feel that long. As I kind of mentioned before, I did not rate every single book that I read in 2024. I actually only rated 53 of them, making my average rating a 4.21 out of 5 stars, which is slightly higher than the 4.19 that I had last year in 2023. So we're moving in the right direction, just not by a lot. And honestly, I am kind of shocked that it is higher because I have way less 5 stars in 2024 than I had in 2023 and 2022 and 2021. And kind of just ever, I feel like, but this chart also says that I have like a lot of 4 to 4.5 star ratings, so it does make sense. The month with my highest average rating was February with a 4.63 out of 5 stars. The highest rated book that I read was They Called Me a Lioness, A Palestinian Girl's Fight for Freedom by Dana Takrui and Ahead to Mimi, which had an overall rating of 4.71. The most shelved book on Storygraph that I read was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, which was shelved by 320,917 users. And the least shelved book on Storygraph that I read was Kaiju number 8, exclusive on the 3rd division, with at the time that I grabbed these stats had like 11 users, including me. And I do think that that will probably change in the future, but for now, that's what it was. Number of pages. This is kind of always going to be at least a little bit incorrect for me, because I don't log every chapter of every single manga series that I'm caught up to and reading chapters from as they update. And I also don't double check to make sure that every edition of what I'm reading is the correct edition that I logged. But Storygraph says that I read roughly 35,252 pages in 2024. Reality is probably a little bit higher than that, but I am also not going to do that math. Like, that is not what I want to do. So we're going to go with it. 78% of the books that I read were under 300 pages. Again, that makes sense with all of the manga. 21% were between 300 and 499 pages, and 1% of them were 500 plus pages, which is actually 2 books this year instead of just 1, which are The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks and Uzumaki, so that's fun. Which, on that note, the longest book that I read in 2024 was in fact Uzumaki by Junji Ito, and the shortest was Monsters by Eiichiro Oda. The month that I read the most books in was July with 23 books, and the month that I read the least in was December with 5. Most pages is allegedly August, and least pages is, I actually do think accurately, December. 45% of the books that I read were fast-paced, 40% of them were medium, and 15% slow. 93% of them were fiction, and 7% were non-fiction, which doesn't seem like a high percentage, but in comparison to like the 1% or 0% from previous years, that's a start. My top 5 genres in order from least to most are contemporary, a tie for YA and horror, a tie for LGBTQIA+, and romance, then fantasy, and finally, my most read genre in 2024 was manga. My moods were mostly adventurous and lighthearted, but also emotional, dark, and funny. I read 55 new authors this year, and my most read authors were Moko Mokuren and Anna Marie Miclemore with 3 books, Haru Aso and Shoharu Sono with 5 books, Nakatani Neo and Eku Takeshima with 8, Gege Akutami with 9, Naoya Matsumoto with 10, which means that my most read authors were Karu Hoshina and Koyoharu Gotoge with 14 volumes. And finally, here is what the mood map looks like. I think the lighter books push the line up and the darker books push it down. And it does start down in the yellow at the beginning of the year, but then spikes up into a greenish color around the spring. It dips a little by the end of the spring and then steadily increases to a darker green color and drops a little in September and October, rises a little, and then falls a little bit again in December, but it never truly does leave that dark green color again. And overall, I do think that I had a pretty good reading year in 2024, even if I do wish that I had more 5 stars. What I did read was good. I have a lot of new favorites that have a variety of ratings, and I got into a lot of manga series this year, which you'll also see very soon because we are going into the new portion of the video where I name all of them and give their rating if I rated them. I usually don't rate manga volumes when they're in a series. Not sure if there are any exceptions to that or not this year. It does kind of just depend on what I'm feeling in the moment when I finish them, but I will give my final ratings for the series as a whole when we get to their final volumes, if we do, and we do. I also don't tend to rate nonfiction books. I do have one exception to that this year because, again, I was just kind of feeling it in the moment, but they were all incredible this year. And one more thing, kind of like I said earlier, I do have a lot of manga chapters that I read this year that aren't logged on my story graph. I do keep a separate spreadsheet for them, and I will be naming what I read at the end of this list. And I think that's everything that I wanted to say before getting into this, so let's go ahead and start. And we are going to start with Blood Like Fate by Lizelle Sambury, which I gave 3.75 out of 5 stars. The Salt House's audiobook by Hala Alyan, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Our Dining Table by Mita Ori, which I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. Squire by Sarah Alfaji and Nadia Shamas, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. Volume 1 of Whisper Me a Love Song by Eku Takeshima. The audiobook version of Something More by Jackie Khalife, which I ended up giving 3.75 out of 5 stars. Monsters by Ichiro Oda, which I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. Volumes 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami. Volume 1 of Kaiju number 8 by Naoya Matsumoto. Volume 8 of Jujutsu Kaisen. Volume 2 of Kaiju number 8. Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 9 and Kaiju number 8 Volume 3. Then we have Hunting by Stars by Cherie Demaline, which I gave 4.25 out of 5 stars. Kaiju number 8 Volumes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Take a Hint Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, which was my first 5 out of 5 stars of 2024. Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 10. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, 5 out of 5 stars. The Evil Eye audiobook by F. Room, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. Larkin Kasim Start a Revolution by Kason Calendar, 4 out of 5 stars. Whisper Me a Love Song Volumes 2 and 3. Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 11. Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo, 3.75 out of 5 stars. Then we have the Rivka Poetry Collection by Muhammad Al-Kurd, along with the Blood Orange Poetry Collection by Mix Yalfa. And then we have another audiobook, which is Chef's Choice by TJ Alexander, which I gave 3.75 out of 5 stars. Whisper Me a Love Song Volume 4. Infinity Alchemist by Kason Calendar, 4.75 out of 5 stars. Volume 1 of Mission Yozakura Family by Hitsuji Gondaira. Volume 3 of Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead by Haru Aso. Whisper Me a Love Song Volume 5, Volume 6, and Volume 7. Psalm 100 Volumes 4, 5, and 6. Outdrawn by Deanna Gray, 5 out of 5 stars. Volume 8 of Whisper Me a Love Song. The Hirano and Kakiura light novel by Kotogo Hachijo and Shoharu Sono, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Volume 1 of the Hirano and Kakiura manga series by Shoharu Sono. The audiobook version of They Called Me a Lioness, A Palestinian Girl's Fight for Freedom by Dana Takurui and Ahed Tamimi. And this was my one exception to the nonfiction rule, and I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. Volume 7 of Zom 100. Volume 9 of Yona of the Dawn by Mizuho Kusanagi. Wild Beauty by Anna Marie Miclemore, 3 out of 5 stars. If You Still Recognize Me by Cynthia So, 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Strike the Zither audiobook by Joan Ha, which I ended up giving 4.25 out of 5 stars. My First and Only Love by Sahar Khalifa, which I ended up giving 4.25 out of 5 stars. Volume 3 of Blue Period by Tsubasa Yamaguchi. I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino, which I I gave 5 out of 5 stars. The Sound the Gong audiobook by Joan He, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of Bloom Into You by Nakatani Neo. The Do's and Donuts of Love by Adiba Jagradar, 4 out of 5 stars. I Hear the Sunspot Theory of Happiness by Yuki Fumino. Volume 2 of Hirano and Kagiura. Volume 1 of the I Hear the Sunspot Limit series by Yuki Fumino. The audiobook version of The Skin and Its Girl by Sarah Cipher, which I gave 4.25 out of 5 stars. Bloom Into You, Volumes 4, 5, and 6. The All Boys Aren't Blue audiobook by George M. Johnson. Volumes 7 and 8 of Bloom Into You, and I ended up giving this series 5 out of 5 stars. Stars in Your Eyes by Case and Calendar, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Volumes 3 and 4 of Hirano and Kagiura. Where Black Stars Rise by Nadia Shamas and Marie Enger, 3.75 out of 5 stars. Volume 9 of Skip and Loafer by Misaki Takamatsu, and I did in fact give this 5 stars, even though it's not the final volume. Volume 2 of Komi Can Communicate by Tomohito Oda. Volume 21 of Haikyuu by Haruichi Furudate. We have volumes 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of Demon Slayer by Koyoharu Gotoge. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of Kimi ni Todoke From Me to You by Karu Hoshina. Volumes 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 of Demon Slayer. So make that 154 books in 2024 because I never logged volume 18 of Demon Slayer. The audiobook version of The Black God's Drum by P. Clark, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Volume 3 of Komi Can Communicate. Volume 22 of Haikyuu by Haruichi Furudate. Volumes 4, 5, and 6 of Kimi ni Todoke. Volumes 21, 22, and 23 of Demon Slayer, and I ended up giving this series 4 out of 5 stars. Volume 1 of The Summer Hikaru Died by Moku Moku Ren. The audiobook version of The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Volume 2 of The Summer Hikaru Died by Moku Moku Ren. Volumes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 of Kimi ni Todoke. The Summer Hikaru Died, Volume 3. Volume 4 of The Summer Hikaru Died. Avatar The Last Airbender, The Lost Adventures, and Team Avatar Tales, which I ended up giving 4.75 out of 5 stars. Demon Slayer Stories of Water and Flame by Ryoji Hirano and Koyoharu Gotoge. The audiobook version of Behind You Is the Sea by Suzu Moati Diraj, which I ended up giving 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks by Mackenzie Lee, which I ended up giving 4.25 out of 5 stars. The Freedom is a Constant Struggle audiobook by Angela Y. Davis. Celestial Monsters by Aiden Thomas, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Goodbye Eri by Tatsuki Fujimoto. Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 12, Volume 1 of which had Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. Naira in the Gym by Yasmin Omar Atta, which I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. The audiobook version of Miss Meteor by Anna Marie Miclemore and Taylor K. Mahia, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. The Empress of Salt and Fortune audiobook by Nivo, which I ended up giving 3.5 out of 5 stars. Look Back by Tatsuki Fujimoto, which I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, which I ended up giving 5 out of 5 stars. Volume 10 of Skip and Loafer by Misaki Takamatsu. Volume 2 of which had Atelier. Volume 1 of The Guy She Was Interested In Wasn't a Guy at All by Sumiko Arai. Avatar The Last Airbender Katara and the Pirate Silver, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Uzumaki by Junji Ito, which I gave 4.75 out of 5 stars. The audiobook version of Never Whistle at Night, an Indigenous Dark Fiction anthology, which I gave 4.75 out of 5 stars. Sleep Like Death by Kaylin Bayron, 4 out of 5 stars. A Game for Swallows to Die to Leave to Return by Zaina Abirished, which I ended up giving 4.5 out of 5 stars. Volume 1 of Welcome to Demon School Iruma-kun by Osamu Nishi. The audiobook version of The Message by Tanahasi Coates. The audiobook version of When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Nevo, which I gave 4.25 out of 5 stars. Volume 1 of Saturn Apartments by Hisai Iwaoka. Volumes 1 and 2 of Yashahime Princess Half Demon by Rumiko Takahashi and Takashi Shina. A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, 4 out of 5 stars. Volume 3 of Yashahime Princess Half Demon. Venus in the Blind Spot by Junji Ito, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. The audiobook version of Let This Radicalize You, Organizing and the Revolution of Reciprocal Care by Kelly Hayes and Mariam Kaba. Volume 1 of Crossplay Love, Otaku, and Punk. The audiobook version of Into the Riverlands by Nevo, which I gave 3.25 out of 5 stars. Kaiju number 8, exclusive on the third division by Naoya Matsumoto and Keiji Ando, which I ended up giving 4.5 out of 5 stars. Avatar: The Last Airbender Suki Alone, which I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. The Lake Lore audiobook by Anna Marie Miclemore, which I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. And we ended the year with the poetry collection Desecrated Poppies by Yafa. As for the rest of the manga that I read chapters from in 2024, these are all chapters that either didn't add up to a full volume or they just don't add up to a full volume yet because I'm caught up to them, including chapters 1 and 2 of Dear Anemone, chapters 1 through 19 of Shadow Eliminators, which I ended up giving 2 out of 5 stars, chapters 1 through 12 of Kaiju number 8 B-Side, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars, chapters 1 through 3 of Sakamoto Days, chapters 9 and 10 of Saturn Apartments, chapters 47 to 65 of You and I Are Polar Opposites, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars, chapters 74 through 119 of Kaiju number 8, chapters 1 through 26 of Ruri Dragon, chapters 131 to 178 of Blue Box, chapters 92 to 140 of Akane Banashi, and chapters 15 through 62 of Kagurabachi. Okay, so I think that's everything. It's probably not, but we're going to go with it. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!